Hi, this is Brian Forster, and today we're going from Pisco on the coast of Peru to Abancay in the highlands. And there, in a very small village called Saihuite, we find this incredible sculpted boulder. The stone it's made of is called andesite, which is very hard. It's 7 out of 10 on the Mohs scale of hardness, and there are more than 200 animals carved into the surface, as well as what appear to be terraces, waterways, and other features. Now, since it is 7 out of 10 in hardness, it could not have been sculpted, most likely by the Inca, because the Inca were a Bronze Age culture. So that means it could very well be megalithic and pre-Inca. And so in the description below, I put a video by Matt of Ancient Architects, who recently did another video on this subject. But it's not only this stone that we find at Saihuite, but much, much more. And that's why, for me, it's important to visit the site, because there are other andesite boulders there with sculpted surfaces as well. And not simply in one location, but strewn across several acres. And there, in behind, a very curious stone which looks like it has been snapped in half. And this would not be something that happened while it was being made. It looks like it suffered a very cataclysmic event. And this is the cataclysms we discuss that happened somewhere around 12,000 years ago. You see that the carving is relatively simple. Then there's also this stone with a hole in it. And so it's called an intihuatana, which means a hitching post of the sun. And so we happen to be at this location very close to winter solstice, and we're going to see that in fact it is a solar calendar. Again, this stone is the very hard andesite material. And there's the hole that on the winter solstice in the late afternoon, the sun goes down and shines through the hole just prior to disappearing below the horizon. And here we have the actual evidence that this was the case during Inca times. It's possible that the Inca did produce the hole, but the sculpted surfaces themselves are most likely pre-Inca. Here we have an Inca structure. You can see the difference in construction style as compared to the giant boulders. So it's stacked stone with some type of mortar utilized, relatively rough fitting. And now we're back at the giant boulder once again. And you can see that the weathering on the surfaces at the break are very eroded. So this, again, likely happened a long time ago. And there are these circles sculpted into the stone, probably by the Inca. They could also be, quite possibly, for astronomical purposes. The best way to observe this site, or in fact any site, is of course via a quadcopter. That way you can see all of the surfaces, especially the top view, which is not possible to do on the ground because this boulder is somewhere in the region of 5.5 feet tall. And there in the background we have another Inca structure. So as we look down on the big boulder, we can see in some ways the detail of all the sculpted surfaces. Now, there are different theories as to what the function of this was. Some think that it represents an ancient abandoned lost city, but I was there with engineer Arlen Andrews, and he believes that it's a scale model of the terracing and water movement system. You can see that there is some water in some of the pockets, so we did an experiment with giant ladders, poured water on the surfaces, and the water did channel very well down through the system. And now we're coming down so that you can see more detail of the sculpted surfaces. And this again is one of the Inca structures, labor intensive, but not complex in terms of shaping of stone. And in the background is the entire landscape of the Saihuite megalithic / Inca complex. And a giant stairway going down connecting the Saihuite sculpted stone with the megalithic complex below. Now we're going to get another view of the big sculpted stone. It's the only one of its kind as far as I know, and is located about a 4-hour drive from the Inca capital, Cusco. There again, you can see what appear to be terraces, different animal shapes, channels, etc. And another view in detail of the different features. And again, so you can see that water has collected in some areas, but in general, if you pour water on the top, it does go through a whole system of different channels down through and actually pours out of holes in the side. And now we're going to be observing some of the other features here, again with the quadcopter. This is the major megalithic complex of the area that we saw in photos previously. And there is the big broken stone. Again, it's highly unlikely that it broke while it was being made. It looks more like it was snapped like a piece of styrofoam in the very, very distant past. So an upper view of some of the megalithic stones. There's the one broken in half. And here we have some children playing on it after school, so this gives us a great sense of scale. I don't think they had ever seen a quadcopter before because they live, again, in a very small village in a very rural part of the highlands of Peru. And here we are flying over, again, where the large broken stone is located. And another view of the broken stone. You can see lots of lichen growing on it. That would have taken hundreds of years to grow, but lichen is not a good indicator of age. It's more a question of consulting with a geologist, actually. We're not able to take a geologist with us, but I think this is clearly an example of the pre-Inca stonework done by a mysterious civilization that also produced the core of Machu Picchu, the megalithic structures we find in the city of Cusco, the giant stones that we find at the big wall at Sacsayhuaman, and the big stones we find at Ollantaytambo, etc. So here are some upcoming events.